Hello there. I'm Kat Hobson, and you are listening to Fate Mag Radio, the online voice of Fate Magazine. And I'm so glad you're here because I have such a great guest for you tonight. He is somebody who has been my friend for so many years. We have followed each other, we have met, we've had breakfast together, we have a true affinity for each other. We are friends first and foremost, but I have him as my guest a lot. His name is Tom Comwell. He is a ufologist. He's a forensic data pattern researcher. He's brilliant at that. He's written 4 books in his They Are Here series. He has written Going Interstellar, Problems First, which I love because he's an engineer. I'm not. I learned so much listening to him. He's written or co-authored with Anna Maria Manalo, the Night Visitants. So he's really into all this stuff. Hey, Tom McNicholas. And it is my pleasure to bring you my friend, Tom Comwell. So, hey, Tom.
Hi, Kat. How you doing?
I'm great.
We had some technical problems. I have no idea what happened with that.
Well, you know what? Do you know how you fixed it?
Because you reminded me to move something on the computer, but I mean, I never touched that.
Well, you know what? This is it's Fate, but this is a paranormal show. Fate's the longest running paranormal magazine in history. So we got to expect some bizarro kind of things, especially with your topic. So
well, apparently that's what happened then, because this was odd.
It was odd. And, it's Carl and I were talking, and he was like, does he do shows? I said, like, all the time. This is not an inexperienced guest. He knows his audio system. So nobody worries because you know what? We delve in the weird. We do. So there you go.
Well,
Carl always finds the most appropriate backgrounds.
Yeah, that's really cute. I like him.
I know, right? You'll notice that my alien is not behind me right now, and that's because he met a doggy demise, I believe. But his cousin is on the way, and David is going to try to resuscitate him too.
Oh, okay. Okay, I have mine behind me.
Yes, I see that. I love that. But
my son Tim got me that.
Oh, well, of course he did.
Yep.
He does love his dad. So, well, I mean, seriously, generally with me come as a package set. So every so often, like the few times we get to see each other, but it's all good. It's really something. I was reminiscing about how long it's been that we've been friends. And, I got my map at my first Scarefest when we got to meet. And
wow, I was at Scarefest in Lexington. That had to have been around 2013.
Right about
2012, right around there.
I think it was around the 13.
Okay.
Because I've done Paranormal Experience for 10 years, and I was a couple of seasons in there. So, and I wasn't doing Fate yet. So I'm just, you've been doing this for a long time because I met you when you had your first They Are Here book out.
Oh, okay.
You had the map, right? And I think you may have had 2 books out.
Yeah, the map didn't come about until I was done with volume 2.
Yeah. And so, and that's still one of my treasured possessions that's in my actual room that I play in. So I love it. But, your work really opened my eyes because I knew my experiences. I knew my friends, people hanging out, people would see things. But until I got a hold of your map, I was blown away. I mean, I didn't realize until I saw your map exactly.
What an eye opener that was to me too, when I started putting pins in and the pins were never ending, where the heck are all these sightings coming from and how many are there?
Yeah.
That really got me to thinking.
Well, and it got to the point where you had to color code your pins by the thousands.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I mean, how many different shades of pins did you wind up using in the long run?
Well, for types of sightings, I use 3 shades of pins: the red, the yellow, and the black.
Yeah.
However, because there were so many sightings in a couple of cities, I had to go to a completely different color. And mostly on the East Coast, I could go to from a small pin to a large pin for 20 sightings. But on the West Coast, there were so many of them in such a short area, I had to go to 3 different colors.
Yeah.
And that means that each of those sightings was 100, not 1 or 10 or 20 or whatever. There was 100 sightings. So the numbers multiplied so quickly, I couldn't believe it. What I was doing is I was putting the pins in as I had yellow sticky notes. And I put the yellow sticky notes on the map, glued them on the map. And whenever I'd come up with one from a particular city that the sticky note was meant for, I just put a slash mark. Well, the numbers got so big, I had to be careful because my slash marks were running into the next sticky note. So there were just so many sightings. I was blown away. I could not believe it.
So before you started doing this research, were you a believer?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Why?
Why? Well, nothing ever happened to me up until that point. I had never seen a UFO, but I just knew that they were real. I just knew it. I don't know why. I just knew it. And I knew that my job would have been to figure out how to convince everyone else that they were real and really in our skies. I didn't know what to do. So when I came across the databases, the National UFO Reporting Center, there were the sightings were all in one spot, and I figured if I could maneuver them around so that I could isolate states, then I may be able to see particular trends. Once I started doing that and working on a state in particular, I realized that the problem that I was having is if I was going to look at where sightings were, come from, whatever the trends happen to be, I have to go to all of the sightings around that particular state, and not just work on that state. There was nothing there. So I had to expand it out. So the first state that I did, I think, was Ohio. And the reason I did that is because after I did volume 1, I still hadn't done anything on the map.
See, that blows me away. I'm going to interrupt you there because that blows me away. When you were talking with the other, with the reporting agencies, did you work with Butch Witkowski at all?
No.
Do you remember him?
Yes.
Well, I was just curious because he was over a large part of the Eastern U.S. ufology experiencers. I mean, documentation. And so, I talked to him all the time about cryptids and stuff because he was into that too. And he freaked me out every time we spoke because he was always talking. I mean, because he wasn't always talking, but he would, if I prodded him, talk about experiences with dogmen. And so that was completely out of my wheelhouse, right? Because we're Bigfoot here. I've not encountered people with dogman experiences that they talk about here. But ufology seems to be universal, because you can't stand in a room anywhere and start having a conversation about it and not have people come up and say, well, when I was blah, 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 whether they were a child, whether they were, out smooching on a date somewhere, or, out fishing or hunting or whatever, they're not shy about who they communicate with or who they expose themselves to, are they?
They don't seem to be, but I believe that they don't try to make contact unless they are contacted. Let me explain.
Okay.
Someone who is highly psychic, they are, unbeknownst to them, they're sending feelers out everywhere that they go, trying to feel stuff, because that's just what they do.
Right.
The ET will pick up on that, and those are the people that they try to contact first.
Well, that makes sense, because we have our friend Jennifer, who is pretty involved. She is psychic. She's worked with the group to save children. She has just about every ability. She's one of the strongest people I know, gift-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been always had encounters, but they're getting stronger. Do you I mean, I don't want to toot her story out. I mean, but that's somebody that I do know who has extraordinary psychic abilities and has always lived with them, grown with them. So is that the type person that you're talking about?
Yes. They, unbeknownst to them, they always have feelers out. And they're also open to thoughts that may be coming to them from other people. Well, once they get contacted, whether it's because of a feeler that they're sending out or one that they receive, ET seems to know that, and those are the ones that they hone in on. In other words, if like a group of people are walking out on the sand alongside the ocean or something like that, and then a ship goes over, they'll pick out the one that's psychic. How do they do that? They have to they pick it up. They sense these kinds of things, and they pick it up and they go with it.
See, that's just amazing, because I would agree with that assessment. That's something that, and I have friends who were not aware of their gifts, but have been becoming more comfortable with them, or just even aware.
Yeah.
And they're having sightings where they never had before.
That happened to me.
I'd say.
Yep.
You want to share that? Because I think let me say this. You're an engineer mind. Okay. You're a data guy. And there's a reason that you are the person who can do the research that you do. Okay. That's a whole different mindset to me, or from me. And I think that I want to hear about you, because you don't tell just anybody that you're more aware than you seem.
This has happened slowly. It didn't happen with any large revelation or anything like that. So as I started writing about UFOs, I started having dreams. And in one of the dreams, which was mentioned in The Night Visitants.
Which is a great book, by the way. Y'all should read it.
That particular book throws out a whole bunch of stories and things that have happened to me, and it has taken them from the beginning to the end in a sequential type format. So I started getting dreams of people wanting to talk to me, but I never really acknowledged it. So one night, one of the dreams that I had certainly come up upon was I was going to bed, and I was wondering how I could get in with a CE5 group. And that was a group that sits around a campfire or a nighttime event, and they meditate and try to bring ships into them. So I went to sleep thinking that. When I got up in the morning, again, this was I started waking up at 3 a.m. for whatever reason, and at 3 a.m. I heard this sound in my ears, like someone was talking to me. It said, "Groups not needed. Ask." And that's all it was, just those 4 words. Groups not needed. Ask.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure what that meant, so I had to think about it. So I thought that it must mean that they want me to ask them and not bother going to a group. So I did for the next several days. I started doing that. Actually, for the next several months, I started doing that. I finished my first book, and just before I was ready to send the book out to get it uploaded to Amazon, and just prior to that, the night before, I had my first UFO sighting. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. Well,
yes,
I kept asking them, looking for some sort of a sign or to show themselves or whatever. And I started in with my second book, and just prior to me finishing the second book, I had my second sighting. And each one of these I put in the very front of the They Are Here book with a little description. Mm-hmm. Well, so happens the same thing happened with my third book. Just as I was ready to upload that one to Amazon, I had my third sighting. And these were pretty profound sightings too.
Can you describe them?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you can finish this, and then we'll talk about that if you want to.
Okay. So I realized that even though I didn't want to admit it, that they were actually contacting me and telling me what was necessary in order for me to have the contact that I was asking for.
Yes.
They were doing it. They came to me at night and started asking me questions and started telling me things. And for nights on end, one night after another, I'd be waking up at 3 a.m. with all this stuff going through my mind. It was just as if I had an encyclopedia put in there each night.
Yes.
And it was overwhelming, and I wasn't sleeping well, which wasn't a good idea because I hadn't had my first heart attack then.
Right. So
I think I was burning the candle at both ends, and eventually it showed up. So, well, anyhow, that's that aspect that they told me what to do and how to do it.
Right. Well, I'm going to say I'm familiar with CE5. I mean, I do Contact in the Desert. I do all these other groups where that's talked about a lot, and there are a lot of practitioners of that. And I had found also that that's not necessary. I mean, I've never heard of them actually getting interaction in those groups, but they do seem to get craft showing up. But I've never talked to anyone who actually had interaction. Have you heard of that? Are you familiar with that happening with any of them?
The only thing I can say is that some of the people who said they have seen ships or called things in, they never saw, I shouldn't say that, they rarely see anything more than twinkling lights or a couple of lights zipping back and forth that obviously aren't airplanes, right. But just those kinds of sightings. And
because they're not asking for interaction, they're just asking them to come and be seen, right?
Yeah. What they had me do was ask to be contacted, and I did. I've started asking to be contacted, and eventually I was with a Native American in my bedroom.
Yeah. So how was that wake up?
I'm
serious.
Weird.
That's so weird. Oh. I know, right? And again, you're not given to flights of fancy. That is not your brain's the way your brain is set up.
No.
More so now than then. More so now than then. But it's what did he say?
The Native American?
The Native American.
He didn't say anything. He came into actually, there were two of them. They walked into the room through a door on the right-hand side. I was laying on my back through a door on the right-hand side of my room. Okay. So they came through a door and they walked up to me on each side, and they had something in their hand, sort of reminded me of a witch's wand. A little wand thing with a ball on the end or whatever. It sort of reminded me of that. And they reached out at the same time, touched my chest, and I felt this jolt of electricity go through me, and boom, I levitated. And the next thing I remember, I woke up in my bed. Well, see, that was a problem, because when I was laying in my bed on my back, the door wasn't on the right-hand side. The door was on the left.
Get out.
So, yeah. And not only that, I slept in a queen-size bed in my house, and on the right-hand side of me was the other half of the bed. So they couldn't have just walked right up to that unless they walked through it or something. I don't know. But the whole event couldn't have happened in my room because everything was backwards.
So you were already elsewhere when that was happening.
I believe so. They had tried
to set your... Well, but, that's what they do. And, with the exception of Travis Walton, who had been injured by their wash from their craft, and that's why they took him, was to not leave a dead, American there, or dead human. But, and I'm thankful they healed him, because we got to learn about his experience, because they did heal him. But it is so weird that your environment was replicated. At least they were giving you that mental image wherever you were.
Yeah. It took days before I realized, wait a minute, the door's not on the right-hand side. And how could they be walking through the bed, Well,
was
obviously
Marie there?
They could, but I mean, pardon me?
Was Marie in bed with you?
Rita.
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 Where did I get Marie from?
Rita was sleeping to the right-hand side of the bed because she has some severe back problems and sleeps in a recliner.
Mm-hmm.
So she was sleeping right next to the bed.
So you were vulnerable and alone in the bed.
I was the only one.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I knew that. I can't. And also, sorry, Rita. I don't know where I got Marie from, but it's just such a bizarre thing to have gone through. And yet that's even more bizarre because I know the kind of person you are, and I can't imagine your reaction when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Your analytical side would have been going insane.
It took me the longest time to realize that was the only alternative left. I thought every alternative known to man. I was thinking of all of them, but
and I know that's not an exaggeration.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and the only thing left was I wasn't in my bed.
Yeah. Well, there was a reason they didn't want to trip you out.
Maybe. Even though I still ask for a face-to-face meeting every night.
You had another one?
No. Not like that. There's a couple of things happened. Let's see.
Tom Nicholas commented and said it's like a dimensional mirror. Perhaps.
Dimensional mirror. Okay. Could be. One of the first dream that they gave to me, I was sound asleep, obviously, and then I found myself walking down a path in the woods, and I noticed that the floor of the pathway that I was walking on was wet, and it was wet because there were leaves on it, and the leaves kept sticking to the bottom of my feet. It was really weird. So I came up upon this egg. It was an egg-shaped ship, I guess. And there was a guy sitting outside of it. This guy was made out of light. He was so bright I couldn't look at him. So I stopped and came up to him and sat down. I don't know why. He said, "Can you help me? We need your help." And I said, "I don't know what I can do because I don't even know what this is." And the guy said, "No problem. Just come in and let us borrow your energy, and then you can go on your way." And so I said, "Okay." So he invited me onto his ship. It was, like I said, it was only 6 feet, and there was a stairway, like 2 steps up into the craft. And when I entered the craft, it was absolutely humongous. This was the biggest thing I've ever seen in my life inside.
Wow.
So, and it was only 6 feet tall, maybe 8 feet around. So, I don't know how they did that, but that is the dimensional screwing around with your mind that they do to you.
Were there more people in there that you were aware of with it being that large?
No. Just the one other person who needed my help. And this person who needed my help told me I just needed to stand next to him, and he was going to use my energy to heal himself. So I stood there for some period of time. I don't recall how long it was. And then they said thank you and escorted me to the door, and I walked down the steps and started walking home and turned around, and the ship was gone already. And for the longest time, was trying to think. This was some sort of a lesson, but I didn't understand what it was they were trying to tell me. I had no idea until about, let's see, when was it? It was last fall. Now, maybe 10 years had gone by from the dream to this revelation last fall. And they were trying to show me how easy it was to heal someone with my energy. That was their lesson.
It's a pretty important one,
I think. But of course, I still don't know what to do with it, but that's what they're trying to tell me.
Be nice if they would give us guidebooks with these things, right?
Yeah.
I mean, genuinely.
Instead of these obtuse references that nobody can get, except for years later.
Yeah. And I don't know. To me, that is an illogical method of doing business.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can heal. Well, fine. Let me understand that's what I'm doing so I can go forth and heal. Right.
Yeah.
And, it's, that had to be so, I don't know, because to me, that would be very frustrating when I realized it. But did it frustrate you because you're not at all like me in most ways?
Well, I didn't think too much about it. And because at the same time, I was understanding the nature of consciousness and what that was doing to, the whole planet. And I thought that they probably wouldn't want me to go off on my own and do healing. So they introduced me to it. And whenever this consciousness thing hits, then we're all going to know a whole lot of what we need to know within a very short period of time, and then go do what we need to do to make the world a better place. I really think that's what's going to happen.
Well, I really hope it's what's going to happen, because I really don't see a way to move forward with so much hate and anger everywhere. And it is everywhere. And, that's why I used to laugh when people would say, oh yeah, we're the planet that they lock their doors as they go by.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea. So, it's just so interesting to me, because when you started doing all of this, I mean, I know that you were already doing paranormal research. Right? You were involved in paranormal with a paranormal team, a really, really good one. And so do you feel like what was opening within you as you were learning to accept that you were looking for human spirit interaction maybe softened a mindset to where you were more open to this?
I think that's probably very, very likely. I started having a couple of very interesting ghost interfaces, and once I did, that's about the time that I started going and writing blogs about UFOs, and everything changed after that.
Yeah,
it got really, really weird for me.
Weirder than
dreams.
Ghosts?
Pardon me?
Weirder than ghosts?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. One event I had, I was still doing ghost work, and I was also just starting to write blogs. I mean, I was just starting.
Which are great, by the way.
Oh, thanks. And we got a call from a guy who said that he believes that he's being visited by aliens, but he also thinks that they're hiding in his house. And
Okay.
I didn't think that was real. Didn't make sense to me. An alien will do whatever the heck the alien feels like doing.
Yeah.
And, just show up, just walk
And they
through
don't have
walls,
to
do whatever.
hide.
Yeah.
So,
None of that is really valid to them. So anyhow, this guy was, he was, he had this, complete surveillance system installed in his house. And the surveillance system was supposedly given to him by his girlfriend. And because he had some electronic guitars and things like that in the house, and he was worried about them taking a walk. So she bought this surveillance system for the house for him. Well, he didn't know it, but at the time, while I was working for Honeywell, I was also working in a buildings group where we were doing installations of surveillance systems.
okay.
So, I got a chance to see the surveillance system, know exactly what they were, exactly how much they cost. And believe me, this wasn't anything that his girlfriend bought.
Okay.
Far from it. It was high end. So he showed me some pictures that were taken outside the house and inside the house, and also showed me a picture of what he thought was an alien crouching behind some boxes, hiding. Well, I looked at this stuff and I told him, no, aliens just aren't going to do that. If these are anything in the paranormal realm, they may be what's the word I was looking for?
Animal spirits?
No, not spirits. Something from the deep earth that have been here all along.
Right, like ancients.
Yeah, and so he showed me this, and I thought, well, I really don't think this is what you have. And he said, well, okay, do you want to see a video of one? I went, a video of what? A ship, he said. I went, sure. So he had the ship upstairs in a place where he was doing computer work. So we walked out of this room. This particular room was like a meet and greet room. It was very much like a garage that was converted over into a sitting room.
Okay.
Nothing to write home about. So he says, we have to go upstairs and into the kitchen, and then I'll show it to you. So we follow him. He walks up the stairs and over to the kitchen door and starts fumbling with his keys. And it took him forever. Remember, he lives here. It took him forever to find the key to open the door to his own house.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was getting weirder by the minute.
No doubt.
Yeah. And so we walked through the house. Once he finally got the thing open, we walked into the house, and it was like, well, my wife and I used to watch those HGTV shows. And one of the things that they do on the shows after they do a renovation is they stage it.
Right.
This was a staging if I had ever seen one. It was not lived in. It wasn't lived in. So, his kitchen cabinets were pretty much empty. There was nothing, almost nothing in them. And the top of the cabinets were, well, for all intents and purposes, empty. There's nothing there. And he had a coffee grinder, not a coffee maker, a coffee grinder on the top. And I thought, oh, that's a little odd. So we walked by there. Yeah, I know. Well, we walked by there and into his bedroom, and he said, let me show it to you. So he opened up the computer, and I was watching him, and he was fumbling around trying to get the file open. Now, mind you, I had already done this with Honeywell any number of times, so I could have helped him, but I didn't. I just shut my mouth up and watched him, and he was fumbling around. He finally got the thing to run, and he showed me this video that was taken, he told me, from the bedroom window.
Okay.
The room that was directly above the room that we entered initially. Okay. And this ship was about 10 feet away from the end of the camera. Where the camera was, it was just 10 feet from it. You could see everything. You could see superstructure in under it, all kinds of stuff. You could see it. And this, I don't believe, was a alien craft, because I would have expected the alien craft to have things like no rivets and stuff like that. But this was probably about a mile long, and it went by the camera very slowly, where you could watch the underside just go by very slowly, and you just get a whole side of everything. And I started watching it, and he said, "Okay, that's it." And I said to him, "Can I have a copy of that video?" He said, "Absolutely not." And
what?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'll give him that.
Okay. Yeah. But he also told us he was in the Coast Guard, and there was a Coast Guard contingent fairly close by that would go up and down the Hudson River. But he told me he was in the Coast Guard, and the whole thing was a ruse. It was a setup trying to get me to talk about what I know about UFOs. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because I had started writing the blogs at that point, and I wrote about 4 or 5 of them, and a few of them got really technical, and I think it got some attention. So
I'm shocked that anything you wrote was technical.
Yeah.
Said no one who knows you ever. But that's wild, because was it moving like a hovercraft? I mean, if it was going so slowly that detail was showing, was it airborne even?
Yes. It was looking up. And the guy said, "From that window." So I walked over to the window and looked out the window and looked up. And when I looked up, what I saw was the superstructure of a tree that was dangling up over the edge of the house. So there's no way that it was taken from that one, because it's all covered with limbs.
Right.
And it was so sharp. It was so clean and bright that my guess, it was taken in the desert Southwest, where it was, very well lighted, and
Right.
nothing got in the way.
Yeah. Tom McNicholas said he wanted his 15 minutes of fame.
Well, I think they wanted to know what I knew,
Yeah.
and I think that if I had talked honestly, that I may not have gone home that night. That's the feeling I got.
Wow.
That's the feeling I got. And I was with two other people. The two people that were involved with starting the paranormal group, and they felt exactly the same way.
Well, I know the people in that group, so I would say not one of them is a lightweight and not one of them is prone to anxiety.
I know.
So I would say I'm glad that you went home.
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly didn't throw my cards on the table that night. Let's say that.
Well, I'm glad.
But
That's
it was
so
odd.
bizarre.
Pardon me?
That's so bizarre. And it's equally, I mean, the weirdest part to me, besides the staging and everything, obviously, but was that they didn't think, I mean, if anybody had done any research into you at all, and obviously they did, or some, because they were aware of your blogs and they had to have done a deep dive on you before they would go to those extremes.
Yes.
But the fact that they let you come with other people, for one thing, and the fact that they didn't have foresight enough to think that you might want to look out the window. But there are military people that think that way or don't think that way.
Yeah. They did a lot of setup, but they didn't think through what their cover story was.
Yeah.
Because it didn't make sense.
Well, I tell you, that's just so bizarre. Tom now said that he may have been a man in black. I know a man in black. So, and they're just regular military guys.
Yeah. Could it have been? Yeah. He wasn't acting weird like some of the men in black do.
No, he was just fishing.
Yeah. And he kept saying, "What's your opinion of this, Tom? What do you think, Tom? Is this a UFO, Tom?"
He didn't ask your other teammates?
No. Oh, no.
Just you.
Just me. That's why I thought it was a setup. They're trying to get information out of me.
Well, I agree with that because I would have been asking everyone if I had something that I was concerned about and I thought there was something in my home and I was, you know, oh my goodness, I would have wanted everybody's input. So you're right. That's just so bizarre.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I love what Carl does. He's so fun. And we had April join us in chat and she was like, "Is this live?" And yes, we are live. But is that the strangest encounter to date that you've had relevant to your ufology work?
Well, that was an odd one for sure.
Or was it the only time you felt threatened?
I guess the only other really weird thing that I came to realize is that as I was going through the nighttime sleep cycles, and I kept waking up feeling like I sat through 12-hour lectures. I realized that they weren't taking me. They never took my body. They took my consciousness, my mind, and they hit me with their stuff about what they were going to do with my mind. I thought that was kind of weird.
I think that's kind of weird too, and that's also why I don't astral project, because I don't I don't want something like that happening. I don't like astral projection, but I feel vulnerable with that.
Absolutely, you are vulnerable. Yeah. Let me tell you. I think they took my body the first couple of times, and then got me used to traveling, and then they just allowed me to just lay in bed, and they took my mind. It was weird, though. Let me tell you.
I was going to say, because I think that I would be more upset at my consciousness leaving my body than I would for them taking my body.
Well, I wasn't aware of it.
Well, sure. But in retrospect, it would have freaked me out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But that was probably a bigger realization than anything that I had outside of the Coast Guard and the dream about the people made out of light. Thought that was a little strange too.
Well, I think that, and I know that you've talked to everybody and their brother about this, and everybody has opinions and whatever.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I feel like that was kind of just, hey, how are you? This is us. You know, are you going to freak and run, or are you going to be adaptable or malleable to communicating with us, even though this is so different and, you know, you didn't run?
Well, it certainly made sense if you thought about it that way. And is that what they were doing? It could be. I can't argue one way or the other. I really can't.
That's all right. I'll argue enough for both of us on both sides. Yeah. But you know better. I think that we both have talked to people that have gone through things like this. We both have our own experiences with things. And I find it interesting because I don't hear very many people talk about light beings, but the ones that do are never threatened by them. They don't feel threatened at all by them.
Yeah. I wish I could have looked at them, but all I could do was glance and hope I remembered what I glanced at. It was just too bright for me to look at.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like a little sun guy, a sun god kind of a thing. But I think that's what, you know, if you go back through Native American stories, they do have people that they describe like that. And I think that this isn't isolated. I don't know that people talk about it much now outside of experiencer groups, but I've not heard people discuss actual beings of light very often at all. And Tom has a question for you if you're up for it.
Sure.
And he wants to know, do you ever feel that they gave you premonitions of the future?
The only thing that they did in their downloads is they told me that be prepared in 2027 because something big is going to happen. They told me that.
A specific year. That's
specifically.
Rare. To get an actual year is very unusual.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, I think it was very unusual before because the whole human experience was very fluid, and it was changing so rapidly that we weren't really sure what was going to happen. But now it's a little bit more stable as far as the human experience goes, and they can. I think they feel better at giving an approximate date. Now, since then, I have heard that date pop up 15 different times with the same message. It's going to
Really?
be a very big event in 2027.
Is it from your feeling because you're sensitive too, and from the connotations that you take from that? Do you feel like it's a cataclysmic event? Do you feel like it's a hello, this is us event? Do you feel that it's going to be an extinction level event? What are you taking from that?
I'm not getting extinction level events. I'm also not getting cataclysms. I'm getting more of a, we're going to show you something so that you stop arguing among yourselves that we're really here.
I like that. Of course, they already had ships all surrounding the White House 50 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And nobody, well, they didn't land on the White House lawn. Well, no, but they sure did buzz the hell out of the Capitol.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, they did.
And that's just like nobody ever, even at events where they're talking about, ta-da moments, nobody ever even brings that one up. But our planes couldn't touch them. We didn't really try very hard. I mean,
Oh, yeah. Every time a plane came in, they just disappeared or took off at super duper velocities, and then the plane could only stay up in the air for so long and had to go back and land, and back they came.
Yeah. And I mean, this is eons ago, guys. This was back when the news was Walter Cronkite level news. I mean, this was not something that is new. It's not something that, there was no AI creating imagery. This was back when what you saw was what you saw.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was not anything that could have been manipulated. And nobody was really happy about it either. There was no, oh, look what we got behind us. I mean, this was like, holy crap. And we're under attack. What do we do? We can't do anything with this.
I know.
And
I know.
It's like the Battle of Los Angeles. There's all kinds of interaction, some very public, and nobody really wants to talk about those. They always want to come back to the woo factor and, pay no attention to this over here. Yeah, this was that airplane that was all over your Capitol building and the White House. It was the White House. And no, that's not ever discussed, not in conferences, not in discussion groups. We've already had proof.
Oh, absolutely. I think the proof that's probably going to happen will be a revelation to so many people that they can't very well say, well, yeah, we were able to explain it away. It's going to be too big. So that's what I think, anyhow. That's what they try to tell me.
What do you think something like that would look like?
Wow. If I were to plan something, what I would do is follow one of the dreams I had when I first started this. And one of the dreams was I walked into the bedroom and I was sleeping, even though I walked in and I saw myself sleeping. And then someone yelled something or whatever. I don't recall what the scenario was, but I jumped out of bed, ran to the window, and looked out the window, and the sky was filled with UFOs. Filled. And they were close. that isn't something you can say, geez, what was that? Oh, there are bugs or something, you won't be able to explain it.
But the thing with that now is that they'll be blown off as drones or our own craft.
Could be, but if they have a couple of motherships in there that are 6 miles long, that's not likely to happen.
Independence Day.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what I think is so cool, is that I don't know what creates the whole experience, and I don't know what creates what they're trying to do, and I don't know. I often think that our government works with the media companies, and they work with CGI people, and that's where a lot of the stuff comes from. And I think that might be part of what the stuff is being developed for. I mean, 2027 is not far away.
No, it's right around the corner.
If it were to be misinformation, then they would have to be getting on that stick, right? And if it were going to be something that other people have been told about besides you, then our government would probably try some subterfuge to make sure that we don't become aware, because they've done a lot to prevent this information from getting out. And with people like Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp's reporting, Bob Lazar, I'm sorry, I do think that there's a lot to him.
Me too.
The stuff relevant to Roswell, the stuff relevant to Trinity, before Roswell.
Yep.
The Valet and Paola just wrote a book on that last year. There have been a lot of incidents, and a lot of people are being messaged. You and Jennifer call them downloads. I just call them, they're chatting,
Mm-hmm. Well, sure.
But it's just one of those things that I find it very fascinating. That
it is very, very fascinating. Till it happens to you, and then you go, what the hell was that?
I've had those moments, I mean, I have had those moments, and I thought I was so excited because I didn't understand what Starlink looked like. But when I was at the UFO Congress one year, Mark D'Antonio does all the video and photo review for MUFON. Yeah. And this guy came up with a cell phone video, and he showed it to him. And it was just 2 cylinders, flying in tandem. And Mark said, that's Starlink. So when I saw outside of my house 2 cylinders lit from within flying, I mean, it was so obvious that they were translucent, but they were huge, and they were flying in tandem. And I ran in the door and told David, I just saw Starlink. I can't believe it. I'm so excited. So I was talking to D'Antonio about that later, and he was like, Starlink has at least 20 to 24 links. So I'm like, well, but you told the guy that that's what that was. He said, no, I didn't. I was like, yeah, you did. So anyway, my great big exciting Starlink moment turned out not to be that.
Mm-hmm.
And the expert on photo and video for MUFON told a guy with the same experience that I did, that I had, that what he was seeing was Starlink when it wasn't. So, I sit there and I'm like, mind blown. And I'm not slamming Mark D'Antonio. I think he is one of the smartest, nicest, best people that the ufology groupings have, because he is very matter of fact.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just like, dude, really? You know, is it or isn't it? And we even have an air refueling wing here. So I
You have
had
a
even
what? I'm
found
sorry. Say that again.
an air refueling wing where the planes attach while one is fueling the other.
Okay.
And yeah, because at first I thought that's what I was seeing, but they were much too big. And I was like, oh, that's not jets. Okay. So that must be Starlink because of the video that I saw. And I was being nosy when I saw it. I was looking over his shoulder, but that's okay.
Okay.
So but that's my weird story.
Yeah, I actually, I haven't seen Starlink myself. It haven't ever been outside at the time when they go over to be able to see.
It just looks like a bunch of little lights in a line, and they're like that. And there's tons of them. There's 20 to 27 or more. They just launched one this week. I believe it's already launched at 47. So because, Starlink is why North Carolina, Florida, and parts of the Virginias have any kind of communication right now still.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and we have Mark Eddy in there too. Hi, Mark. So, it's really an interesting thing to me because even somebody who is involved in all of these things is tamping down, so, or he didn't understand what I was asking or something was not right.
Yeah.
And he does government work.
I don't know what everyone's motivations happen to be, but I can tell you that in 2027, this will be way beyond the point of anybody explaining it away.
It's going to have to be really bizarre.
Yeah.
It's not going. Do you feel that it's a threat, or do you feel that it's an information?
No.
Thing?
No threat whatsoever. Nothing like it.
Do they feel like they'd be safe doing that? Because our government is not going to be happy with that.
Well, they may not be happy, but they're also in contact more with our government than we realize. And I'm sure they're going to let them know what's coming.
Well, I would hope. The only man in black I know is military. So. And that's from a really, really old case. But anyway. Well, I'm going to ask you, what do you think it's going to look like?
Well, since I had that dream about thousands of things in the sky, and I posted it on Facebook, and I had a bunch of people reply back to me that they saw almost the same thing in a dream.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm fairly sure that it's going to be something like a mass sighting.
Well, when you talk about that many craft and the motherships and I'm just nosy, when you talk about the motherships, it's almost like they house the craft in those for interstellar travel kind of a thing, or
yeah, possibly.
I mean,
either that or the ship's parked next to it, and when it goes into its faster than light mode, it drags everything around it along with it.
That's interesting.
So the ships don't have to all park inside of the thing and all they have to do is park next to it or dock up to it, and it may be able to drag everything with it.
Well, that's interesting.
Hmm.
What does your vision of the mothership look like?
Freaking humongous. I talk with several people who have seen ships that could qualify as a mothership, but I don't know if they were. They were maybe 100 feet off the ground, and they flew by them at relatively slow speed, and it took almost 20 minutes for them to go
Get out
from
of
one
town.
thing from the other. Yeah, that's how big they are.
What area were those in?
You mean those sightings?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was in upstate New York.
There's so much activity up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yep, yep. This was way out in the woods, and I don't know if they were trying to. I don't know if they were trying to show themselves on purpose, or they had something else to do. But this thing was like right there, right in under this person that told me about the sighting. It's right under the house, right under their car. And the thing just started going over, and it just lasted 15, 20 minutes.
Holy crow.
Yeah. Now, whether it was a mothership or just a very big one, I could never know. But I think the motherships are going to be something very similar to that, just so big that we can't even imagine.
Well, in order to have all of the things that interstellar travel might require, especially if you're going a good ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to have personnel, and you have to have people to take care of personnel, and you have to have the logistics of that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the blogs I wrote in that Going Interstellar talked about going on a trip, all the things you need to do to go on a trip.
Yeah.
And I compared it to like going on vacation. You'd bring, your clothes and whatever else. And unfortunately, they're going to another planet, so they're going to need all their parts, and they're all going to be, or at least a way to manufacture the parts. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to need the energy to keep everyone alive, and they're going to need food, and they're going to need air to breathe, and it's just a big long laundry list of things that you need to do in order to go on a trip.
If they're oxygen based.
Yeah, it's going to be something very much like that.
That's a great book, by the way.
Thank you. It was my favorite one to write.
Well, it was my favorite one to read. Yeah. I love that book. But and I wrote the foreword just so people.
You wrote the foreword, yes, honest. You did.
But because it was so fun. Because when I was talking to you about it, you're like, you have to do this in order to do that. And I'm like, but no. And you were so right, because I went back and researched it. I wasn't going to argue with you, because I don't, because you know so much. And I do. I respect your integrity. I respect your professionalism. I respect your experiences, because I know that you are an honorable and honest man. And I know that you're not wandering around with loose screws in places. And so because of the type of person you are, you're very data-based. And I think that that's why people listen to you so much, because there are other people that I might not have quite the confidence in that I have in you. And people listening, I want y'all to know that too, because it's such an odd topic, and it's a more odd topic for someone like you to be so immersed in. But when the data started coming to you, there wasn't anything else to do with it but use it as you were given.
Yep. It was fun doing that. It really was, because I wasn't willing to believe at that point that I was being told what to write about.
Yeah.
Even though I was.
Yeah.
And I just let it go. I just relaxed and wrote whatever came into my mind at the moment. And it probably turned out that whatever came into my mind, it was supposed to be there.
Yeah. Downloads. And what type of, I know our mutual friend, I know what she gets. What type of downloads, how would you describe your downloads?
Well, the downloads are happening at night. And I really had difficulty trying to say that I was being downloaded during the day, because I was never aware of anything. However, at night, what was happening was I was waking up in the morning exhausted and still feeling like I had just sat through an 8-hour lecture in some college lecture hall. That's what it felt like.
Well, that's not healthy at all.
No, it was not healthy for me. It was not.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I had to tell them that they're going to have to slow down their downloads, or do one per month or something like that. And after I said that in my mind, then they did indeed slow down.
How often were they before that? Every night?
Nightly, yeah.
Well, you were on overload in all kinds of ways.
Oh, man, it was awful. It really was, because I didn't know what to do with all the information that I had going through my head.
What was the strangest piece of information, other than the reveal date?
Strangest piece of information. I probably around that point started asking to be met on one of my trips so that I could have a face-to-face meeting. And they told me that I couldn't understand what it was that I was seeing if I met them. So that I wasn't ready yet to have a face-to-face meeting, and I just have to be more patient.
I hate when people tell me that. So
there's nothing I can do about it, No,
there's not. There's nothing I can do about it when people tell me that either, but it doesn't help. So I'm impetuous on occasion. So more so than you. Although,
don't be so sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've transitioned a lot.
Yeah.
You definitely come out of your shell. And it wasn't that big of a shell anyway, once I got to meet you.
Yeah, I tried to keep it all together so that nobody saw what was going on with me.
Yeah.
And I did for the most part until I started writing, and then it just got out of hand.
I can see that.
Mm.
Well, I mean, you have so many experiences, but I will tell you that one of my favorite times with anybody that I've met doing any of my stuff, work related to fate, to paranormal experience, to going to conferences, to hanging out with the different people I do. Our breakfast that we had that morning in Kentucky was one of my favorite times that I've gotten to spend. And you're such a gentleman, and you're so smart, and you're so funny, and you're so genuine.
Well,
and
thank you.
with the stuff that you do, it's really refreshing.
It was fun to me because I don't usually do that with people.
Yeah.
Very guarded and, very standoffish.
Yeah.
But you made me feel that you were the kind of person that I should be talking to.
And after all these years, here we are.
Yeah.
Talking. So, well, I think that it's because with what we do, there's people that aren't real supportive all the time, or people that have questions, and if they don't get the answer right then they feel like you're a charlatan or something. I mean, it's just like, really? Because I don't know every single thing that I've done in the last 10 years to come back and, come and talk to you about. A lot of times it's about a show that I did with somebody. And I remember all of my shows, but I don't remember every conversation. Right.
Sure.
And, when one of my networks closed down, I lost a lot of my shows. So that was like, and that was like 3 years worth of shows. But, it's just it's a comfortableness, because we're respectful of each other. We genuinely like each other. And I'm fascinated by the work that you do, and you don't mind sharing the work that you do. And we're friends.
So. I think it's because I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
That's my job. I'm supposed to write what they tell me. I'm supposed to go out of my way to explain what it is that I've written, why, and to make everybody feel comfortable with the subject.
And you do a good job of that. I mean, because really and truly, a lot of people listening, they may feel like, oh my God, he's getting downloads. Oh my gosh, they're showing him this stuff. Oh my gosh. A lot of people freak out about aliens. Yeah. And, it's really interesting to me that we always assume they look like us, or at least have the same structure that we have.
Yeah.
And the one that you met was basically, a flame. I mean, the star, the light.
Yeah.
And I think they're probably more like that than like us. We're earthbound. We don't, we're not built to travel extreme distances. And we would have to evolve to be able to do that. And it stands to reason that other people already have, right?
Yeah. And I think, I can't recall who was that made the comment, but that any aliens that we come across may indeed be stranger than we can imagine.
Yeah. Or they could be us in the future. I mean, there's so many infinite possibilities, right? And it just blows my mind. I listen to people doing interviews in other places. I like listening to other people's shows. And I'm always surprised by some of the questions they don't ask. You know,
Oh yeah, yeah.
because it's like with your stage set up, you know, that was such a giveaway, and I'm surprised they let you walk out of it. I really am.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was a lot of effort to get you in there.
Yeah, I know.
And
I know.
do you think if you'd been by yourself, that would have been different too?
Oh yeah, yeah. They would have taken me, and I would have been involved in discussions for days.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what I felt in my heart. That's what I felt that they wanted to do.
Gee, did you ever imagine that you would be such a threat to society?
No, actually, because
you're so not that person.
Yeah, I'm just the most boring guy you ever meet in your life, you know.
You're not.
I just shouldn't be that person, you know. I couldn't be that person.
And yet here you are.
Yeah, maybe that's why they picked me, so that I could just stay 100% low key and never get ruffled. I don't know.
Well, they picked the right guy. I mean,
well, if that's seriously what they're looking for, I guess. But yeah, there's a few other people who make a bigger splash on radio or TV than I do. The heck, I'm just an old guy, you know. But other people have the gift of gab, which I do not. I struggle with that. So
you're talking to the girl that's been trying to pull it out of you for years and years now.
Mm-hmm.
We do okay. I think we do okay. Mm. So, but there are people that some of them are flamboyant. I mean, they're media darlings because they're like, ta-da, here I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look
absolutely.
at me.
Yeah. And I couldn't do that.
No, you could not do that. But to me, that just makes you more credible. And yeah, this isn't something you went looking for.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
And, you know, I'm glad that we came across each other.
Oh, me too.
Because it's a big deal to me. But with my little, I just glanced down at my little notes that I was sending you, trying to get the text stuff worked out. But what would you say is probably the thing that you look forward to the most about whatever is going to happen? Are you looking forward to 2027 to see what it's going to be? Or are you a little trepidatious?
What worries me is I've heard a lot of stuff about there being problems on the planet prior to that, where everybody's going to have really big issues and there's going to be all kinds of pain and suffering. And that's what I don't look forward to. Yeah, that scares me. But 2027, I cannot wait. Anything can happen, and I'm ready for it, because I just know that that's what I was put here for.
Yeah, I get that. You know, I've been hearing a lot about that too. And, you know, the trials and tribulations kind of thing. And mm-hmm. I just think that all the things that our world has been through already, you know, going all the way back just as our nation with the Civil War, and then you had the world wars. There's all kinds of stuff going on now. There's threats of nuclear weaponry being used in Europe now. And yet we keep going. We keep having children. We keep bringing, other humans into this world that is so scary and jacked up. And it's been that way since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
And yet humans appear to be really optimistic about the future. They keep having other generations that it's just crazy how resilient the human condition is, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, I'm actually looking forward to a consciousness upgrade, jumping into the fifth dimension. I still try to get information on that, and I keep asking at night, how can I get information on this? What do I need to do? How do I raise my vibration? Just things like that. And no answers are forthcoming. So it could be that my job was just to get people ready by telling them, hey, it's coming. This is what you should do. And just know that I'm going to get swept up in the negativity. I don't know. But whatever it is, whatever it happens to be, I am ready for it because I knew that that's probably what I signed up for with my soul contract.
You believe in soul contracts?
Pardon me?
Do you believe in soul contracts?
Yes. Yeah.
What about people that aren't aware that they have them and yet they're still fulfilling them?
Well, most people aren't aware that they have them. Matter of fact, almost no one is aware that they have them or what it is. They just live their life, and some people try really hard to live a good life. Others get swept up in the negativity, and they may end up in another life on a different planet. Who knows?
True that. I just think it's fascinating. Since I started doing Fate Magazine Radio, which I love, and I'm going to give a shout out to Phyllis because we are in the process of building a new website for Fate Magazine Radio, and it will be ready toot sweet. But I think that I got put in this environment, kind of stepping away from the paranormal and being more involved with ufology and consciousness and other things of that nature because of my role with what's happening. And because I would never have thought that I would be a radio host, right? And I've been doing it for a while now. And then from my first show and somebody that turned out to be, not a great human, I wound up doing Fate, which was fate.
Sounds like it.
But hey, when you're troubled, all you that's where you're going to go. That's where you're going to go. But it really is one of those things that I've been exposed to so much more because of what I do here. And I was in an experiencer group because I am one, but because I'm media, it's hard for them to let me do that. Right. And it had to be somebody who knew me and knew my history and my integrity who let me in. And when I was in this group, it got to where I was very anxious because I was just listening.
Okay.
And
things started getting real, huh?
Things started getting real. And to the point of implants and realizations. And I was just so blown away. And when I get I have tells when something is like that. I start getting, fidgety, and I can't really be still, or I'm just kind of like, yeah, this is just about over, right? We can leave. And when I left, I spoke with the person leading that group, and it was a fairly large group. They had 3 different coordinators for those. And I said, I just don't know what to say. I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't know what I think of this. And she explained it to me too. But, I had something not long ago that was like coming out of my palm. And I was like, what is that? Oh my God, what is that? And it regressed. It went back in. And so it hadn't been long since I'd had a hand x-ray because I hurt my thumb when I fell in Key West. And there wasn't anything there because I still had a copy of that x-ray, the printed picture of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I pulled it out and I was looking at it, and there's nothing in the center of my hand. And yet it looked like a growth, and it was hard coming out of my hand. And I was like, no, no, that can't possibly be what that is. And it was so very similar to other people's descriptions and experiences and things of that nature. It's just weird when you think of all the things that are happening to people around the world. And they're consistent. And they're afraid to talk about them too. And all the way from, that crash, where was that? Charlotte. It's one of the first crashes, and there were bodies, and they were taken away. I want to say it was in Missouri. Good grief. I cannot remember that. Because I wasn't planning to talk about it, so I didn't have any notes. But from that point, everybody has been doing that. Hello, Raymond Trueblood, and thank you. I hope you have an outstanding night too. But I think that this human condition has been evolving for so long, and so many people are having these experiences. Mine was weird. To me, it was weird only because I had had a hand x-ray not that long before. Mm-hmm. But, people have stuff like that all the time. And, they have a pain in their thigh, and there's like a little triangle of 3 things there. And that's a repetitive implant.
Yes.
It's bizarre when there's so many humans that are being affected, and most of them have no idea. I wouldn't know if I hadn't been at that conference.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't know that was a thing. And I mean, I heard about implants, but I'm always like, Willie Stryber has one in his ear. I mean, it's not like they're specific places, but it's just bizarre that so many people have these experiences and they have no idea that they're not alone.
Yeah, I've spoken with quite a few people who have claimed that they were abducted, and they all tell me that they suspect that there is some sort of implant somewhere on their body. Mm-hmm. Most of them don't know where it is because they weren't awake when it was installed. Mm-hmm. But some of them have been aware because they've seen them on an X-ray or something like that. Mm-hmm. And for the life of me, I haven't seen anything in the way of evidence that would show me that someone has an implant.
Mm-hmm.
But they, whoever I happen to be interviewing, they don't seem to share that kind of information with me. They'll just tell me they have an implant, and I'll never see the basis of the information ever.
Well, there is a gentleman who I interviewed, Terry Lovelace, and he wrote a book about his experience. But the only reason that he knew that he had been abducted. He knew that a craft had gone over.
Mm-hmm.
He was not aware of what had happened, right? However, the person he was camping with was panicked and had a terrible time with his experience. And then Terry was out running at one point, and because he was a runner, and his legs started hurting, like affecting his running. And that's why he went to the doctor, and there were 3 little like stone things in his leg. And so he, was going to have them taken out, and it wasn't a horrible thing, but the memories started coming, and his friend went crazy because of what happened to them. And so I do know one person that I would absolutely trust on that. Again, he was a military legal person in another country representing the U.S. So it's the background is impeccable. And there's all kinds of things that, I've heard stories about people that were having their implant taken out and it ran from the scalpel. And again, in that instance, the person that was telling me was a witness to what was going on, and he was credible.
Yeah.
So
Roger Lear talked about a lot of the surgeries that he did. They go to take the thing out, and then it just takes off somewhere.
Well, in this instance, the person was there as not the surgeon, but as an observer.
Uh-huh.
And it ran, and it was in somebody's face, and it was messy. I mean, It was bad. And so, so the implants are intelligent.
Right? Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, that's scary in its own right.
Yeah. The implants are, along with the drone devices that they use outside of their small sport craft. They use them for all kinds of things. One of them came at my car while I was driving to work and skipped off the windshield.
Jiminy.
And I was going 60.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
This thing came towards me. You can imagine how fast it came towards me, because it was moving too. And it was moving in this sinusoidal way, up, down, and then went thump right off the windshield.
Did it damage your windshield?
No.
Well, of course not.
No. It was like it knew what it needed to do and how it needed to veer so that it wasn't going to be damaged or destroyed.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have had such an interesting few years. You have.
That's one word for it.
Well, I mean, it is. And you've pretty much rolled with it very well.
Once I realized why I was here and getting downloads, then I realized that I'm just going to have to go with it and just do what they ask of me. So then it became easy.
Well, there's not really a way of running from it, is there?
No.
It's just there.
They'll keep reminding you and reminding you until you just can't take it any longer.
Yeah, they do. Well, I'm so glad that you've been here, because I know that a lot of times this stuff seems like it's a Twilight Zone episode. And it's not. It's your real life.
Oh, I know.
And
I know.
You know, I know that when I've been on the phone with you a time or two and Rita was there was sometimes I wonder how she copes with it, because I know it's a little, you're hers.
I try to tell her everything, but some of the things are just so strange that I'm wondering what she's thinking when I'm saying them.
Well, she's still there.
Yeah. 53 years and counting.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And what does she say when you're telling her?
Like, wow, I never heard of that before. That would be it. What can you say? I asked her one night if I ever see, how do I say that? If she got up at night and looked over and I wasn't in bed, did she ever notice that?
Yeah.
And she said, no, I never noticed that. Well, that's when, you see, she doesn't sleep a lot at night. Ever since I had my heart attack, she's really concerned about me.
Sure.
So she's pretty much aware of where I am and my breathing and everything else. So that's why I knew that they had to be doing something different than taking my whole body away.
Right.
Because that would have been noticed.
Good point.
So I figured, well, what could they be doing? So that's when I started asking a bunch of questions around some of the people I know, and asked if they could just take your mind and return your mind, and you'd never know the difference. And they said, sure, I could do anything they want to do.
Yeah. Well, your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all they need.
Yep.
Is for you to be able to retain it, is to affect your consciousness. So what did she think about the night visitors?
I told her pretty much what happened of the things in the book. So she didn't think too much about it because she was like primed already for the stories. So it never really bothered her.
Well, I know that I know this book was a collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
And, all three of us, you, myself, and Anna Maria Manalo, all spoke on a show. And some of the stuff in there was kind of dark experiences, I felt like.
With who? With me or with Shailene?
With Shailene.
Shailene, oh yeah. And she only wrote about 1/10 of what Shailene actually told me.
Well, can you tell people about that a little bit?
No, Shailene would have to do that. It's up to her.
Oh, I just meant about why you were the person relating the stories.
I'm not sure I understand your question. Hit me with it again.
Well, a lot of the dark stuff that happened, okay, was, I mean, you're aware of it. It's in the book. And I guess what I'm asking, was it cathartic for that to come out for her?
Yes.
Or was that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was. But she held back a whole lot. She could only say certain things because she thought that they would take it out on her if she told everything.
Like she's still in contact?
Oh, yeah.
So that hasn't lessened for her at all?
No. And it's not very pretty either.
And if you want to know what we're talking about, The Night Visitants, you can get it on Amazon, and you'll find Tom under Thomas W. Cromwell. All of his books are listed under that now. And I just found that to be an interesting reach for you to do that book.
Yeah, I never thought about doing the book until I started writing little tidbits about the things that have happened to me on my Facebook postings. And Anna saw that, and she approached me with doing something along the lines of the book that she actually did, and asked me if I would be interested in telling her the stories. And when we started into it, I said, I told her as things were going on, but then also this other person that I had interviewed, I thought that she would be a good addition to the book because she had events that happened to her that were not even close to the events that happened to me. And I thought it would be a good break for the book. And I thought that she was going to come clean with Anna about everything. Right. And she didn't, which is hard to believe because when you read what was written about her, you say to yourself, wow, that's absolutely horrific, and you know that, just know that she only told about 10% of it.
That to me is astounding.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how she is still here.
I know.
I mean,
she told me these stories, and I couldn't even handle them.
I could see that.
Couldn't handle them.
What made it hardest for you? What was the thing that disturbed you the most about that? I mean,
at one point, she talked about things in her house that visited at night and took her kids.
Right.
That really bothered me because I couldn't even even appreciate what that would be like for me.
No, I don't think anyone could, right?
No.
I mean, it's just so, that is a primitive thing to go into defense for your children.
Yeah. And she told me so much on top of all the stuff that was in the book that it was just beyond belief. It really was beyond belief. and I can't even
hate
talk about it. Can't
I
even
hate
talk
that
about
it still happens.
it. Yeah, I know. And she's such a sweet lady.
What age range is she within?
You asking me to guess the age of a woman, huh?
A range.
You know how dangerous that is.
Don't give a specific, just a
Yeah.
range.
Okay. I'd say she's probably in her early 60s.
Okay. Well, I
She
tell
could
you
be
what.
younger, certainly, but that's my guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's just absolutely mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm.
Mind-boggling. But again, that book is The Night Visitants, and it's under Thomas W. Cromwell and Anna Maria Manalo, Manalo.
Yeah.
And she's actually a very good author.
Yeah.
I enjoyed having the chance to talk with both of you at the same time. That was fun.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, that book. Oh my gosh, that book.
Yeah.
But because I don't do much of that. I do enough of it on my own,
Mm-hmm.
as far as researching and stuff.
I tell people if you are into paranormal reading and hauntings and stuff like that, then you're going to enjoy the book. But if you're not into that and you start to read the book, don't read the book home alone at night.
No. That is sound advice, Tom Cromwell.
Mm-hmm.
That is sound advice. Well, we are just about out of time. Tell people where they can find you. Okay.
Well, my favorite place to be is on Facebook.
Yeah.
My Facebook address is tom.conwell.3. And if you went to that direct address, facebook.com/tom.conwell.3, you go right to my page. And what I've liked to do is when I get a download or something along those lines, I will write about it. I will write about what they want me to talk about.
Yeah.
And I do that, and I try to get back to everybody who makes a comment to me. Because it's that important that they understand that someone is pushing the buttons for this kind of contact.
Yes. And that's one of the things I admire most about you.
What's that?
That you're not just doing it for hits, or you're not just doing it for poops and giggles, or you're not just doing it for attention or book sales or anything. You're committed to this, and you're one of the kindest people I know. So I think that it's nice that other people get to see that side of you.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much for that comment. But if I didn't do that, they would be all over me.
Yeah.
Just to put it that way. They want what they want when they want it. And they make it very, very well known that that's what they want.
Yeah. But they chose the right vessel to have that happen.
Yeah. And I just got a Facebook notification for somebody that sent me a Facebook request.
Yay.
Tom McNichols or McNichols?
Oh, McNicholas. You will love him. He's just a brilliant human too.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, but anyway, we are out of time. Thank you so much for being here. Lori said great show. So she knew what she was getting with you. I talk about you. So in a good way. But thank you again for being here. So even though we were a little slow out of the box, but we got it done. And for everybody listening, thank y'all so much too, because you're the reason that we do these shows here. And you'll be able to find me on Dark Realm TV app on Roku. And my shows start up tomorrow. And I'm really excited about that. Denise Pridemore of Paranormal Pride has started last week. I'm coming in this week. And, it's just going to be so much fun. So we will talk to you next week. Same cat time, same cat channel. And be blessed. Namaste. Good night.
Thanks, Kat.